Picking up our conversation with Keen Azariah, journalist, writer, wrote the book, The Zombie in the Rear View, the story of Bryan Patrick Miller, and who is now on death row. Yeah. When we left you off in the earlier part of the conversation, we were talking about you attending the trial. Bryan gets arrested. Did you have any interaction with him when he was in jail at Lower Buckeye?
We talked on the phone.
You did talk on the phone?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, every now and then you would hear, the phone ring and it would say Lower Buckeye Jail, and he would just be calling to check in and whatnot. This was early on. He didn't have many people to talk to. I went to the courtrooms the whole time in the early stages to see his sessions, and it was pretty empty otherwise. So he was kind of on his own. A lot of his friends wouldn't even give him the time of day, and I understand why. He didn't at the time, though. At the time, he was very optimistic at his case. He was actually telling me, "Hey, when I get out, we should try to, hang out and this and that."
Wow.
Okay.
Is this denial, or did he think he had some kind of defense that would stick? Or had he even gotten that far?
This was before it even went capital. We both had some denial, admittedly. His was probably a little more pronounced, but yeah, I think we both had it, and his denial was kind of contagious in a sense.
Did he say to you, Keen, I didn't do this?
In so many words, sure, yeah. And he was telling me back in 2015, he would fight it till the end, but no matter what happens, he's not going to.
When did you first hear that they would mount an insanity defense?
Well, that was late. That was unexpected, and that was late, last year before the trial came.
What did you think of that strategy? Did it make any sense to you? Did Bryan strike you as someone who was insane?
No, not at all. And even, that's the weird thing, even Bryan himself says he's not, while his defense says he is. It's very ambiguous. I don't know. Nobody knows what to believe.
But in your book, it becomes very clear that you believe he's a damaged person from his upbringing.
No doubt about it.
Can you talk about his upbringing a little bit?
Well, again, I wasn't here for that, but I learned a lot from not only his daughter, I also learned a lot from one of his neighbors. Now, longtime Phoenicians will know, I think, about what we call the case of the decade out here in Phoenix, which is the Deborah Mielke case.
Yes.
All right, well, it turns out that the Millers were next door neighbors to the Mielkes. And
that is unbelievable.
It's true. And it's
two of the biggest murders in this town, and they were neighbors.
The cases
next door neighbors?
Separated by a back fence.
Unbelievable.
And this is where, this is what I mean. They were good friends. Bryan's mother actually attended Christopher Mielke's funeral. And as we all know, Jim Stiers was a trigger man who actually killed Christopher Mielke. Jim Stiers was Christopher's babysitter. What people don't know is that he got that position because it was vacated by Bryan Miller. Bryan Miller used to babysit Christopher Mielke, and this is what Bryan tells me in his letters. That stunned me.
How old would he have been at that time?
He was a teenager. He was barely enough to. This is right before he went into Adobe for stabbing Celeste Bentley.
Do you think any of that bled into his interest or obsession with murder? Or
that could very easily be. He
was pretty close to it.
Oh yeah, they would come over all the time, and his mother. I heard it in court, but I learned it in 2015 that his mother would let the Mielkes borrow Faces of Death on VHS. They were her videos, and this is what Bryan was exposed to.
So his mother was interested in
exactly the same stuff Bryan was.
Do you think he was seeing this as a young kid?
Oh yeah. He didn't have much chance of.
These are snuff films, basically, right?
They're virtually, and it never stopped in Bryan's life. He as a former fan of horror movies, I understand there are some good ones out there, but he took it on a different level where Faces even beyond. It is almost like murder porn.
Do you think he was doing things that typical serial killers, if that's what you want to call Bryan Patrick Miller, setting fires, mutilating animals? There's usually a progression before you start taking on people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, gosh, there was petty criminal offenses in his childhood. I'm not sure, maybe even a little bit of arson. Yeah, it was a buildup for sure.
He describes himself as autistic
Man, that's a big
or
ball of
mildly
confusion for me.
autistic.
I don't remember him ever describing himself like that. Now his lawyer may have. I'm not sure.
Did he strike you as a guy who was fairly sharp?
Oh yeah, as
Smart guy.
As a tech, yeah, yeah. You know, and he wasn't the kind of guy who was a show off when you know, philosophically or anything. Would, you know, I know about this or that. What he knew about, he would speak up, and yeah, he was spot on.
Since you weren't here when the murders of Angela Brasso and Melanie Burness happened in 1992 and 1993, respectively, you weren't here for that. But people who knew him during that period, did he ever exhibit any interest in that case? Did anybody ever catch him reading newspaper articles, watching television? Because this was all over. It's one of the first stories I covered here when I got to the Valley.
Yeah. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Now, there might be somebody who may have heard something, but the people I've spoken with, no, he barely spoke at all when it comes to that. But no, there was nothing I've heard.
Did police ever find in the search of his house clippings from newspapers?
There was a rumor about that early on, but nothing ever came to fruition that I know of. Maybe you might want to speak to Troy Hillman or something, but I don't know of anything.
And the bicycles from the two women were never found?
In whole. Now, that's not to say that parts of the bicycle might have been found on other bicycles. I don't know. It's just
in other words,
speculation.
souvenirs maybe?
Who knows?
Retained.
You never
Because
know. But he mentioned that he did have, you know, receipts for those. Those were new bikes they found in the shed. I don't know if, you know.
You actually went through his house with other friends of his to collect his belongings after he had been arrested.
Yeah, there was a handful of us that went there to pack up because the police had left, and everything was rotting. There was no electricity. It was terrible. It was a mess. It was so bad I had to change clothes before going home. I didn't want to get bed bugs. It was terrible.
Was he living like that, or was it because the police had turned the place upside down?
According to his daughter, it wasn't that much different during every other time. He hid it well. Every time I was in that house before his arrest, it was hid pretty well. Curtains on the wall, or curtains in the hallway. So you know, it was pretty shocking.
Did you learn anything about his proclivities or anything about him, his interests in that? Did stuff turn up?
Well, it was strange because you end up finding things, and I understand why things might have been left behind, but you find, you know, written letters and stuff like that, and very personal items, you know, receipts and stuff like that. It's a giant junk pile. I know the police can't just dump the whole house into a basket, but it's just it was an impossible mission for them.
Was it a hoarder house, would you call it?
Yeah, it looked like there were two that were dumped into one. Yeah, it was like if a tornado had gone through Neverland Ranch or something. It was just.
His daughter ended up where?
She moved out of.
She was living with him.
Yeah, she eventually moved out of the city. She's trying to free her mind of all this, as we all are in a sense. I still talk to her. She was pretty damaged from it, and she goes into that too in the book. She feels like it's getting a lot off our chest.
Keen, did you visit him in the lower Buckeye jail before?
No. Back then, it was just too much of a hassle to actually get down there. And once you do, you're still behind not even glass. You're actually zooming basically on.
It's on camera.
Yeah. So I was like, you know, might as well just call him and
okay. And you're aware at that time that it's being recorded.
Oh sure.
And he knows this. He must know this.
I think he knows as much that they record phone calls as he did that they record interrogation videos, because you know, I think he knows that he knows enough that everybody you get recorded in interrogation videos, and when you watch his interrogation, you see that, well, we think he's wise to this. He's talking out loud to nobody, to Sarah, trying to make himself sound you know, innocent in a sense. It's been
when the cops leave the room.
It's been done before, yes.
I have not seen that interrogation video.
You need to watch it.
When you watch it, do you see a guilty man scrambling, nervous, or does he strike you as the Bryan you always knew?
Well, he does strike me as the Bryan I always knew, which is the problem. There's no man in there surprised at what they're accusing him of. There's no surprise. There's no, I didn't do it. There's none of
indignation.
That. Yeah. I mean, I don't understand that. I would have been jumping all over the room. I wouldn't have been.
Freaking out.
Yeah, I mean.
So when they tell him the DNA is from you on both girls, he says, I just don't know how it got there.
Sure, yeah. He's claiming he's scared of that strip of canal and this and that, but I don't know.
When you look back at how these killings were done, do you think it was meticulously planned, that he went there very methodically looking? The victim may have been by happenstance, but he went there to kill someone that day, those days.
Yeah, I think it was a hunt every time, absolutely. And, you know, depending on, I interview another woman who actually was accosted by somebody she thinks is Bryan Miller after Angela Brasso and before Melanie Bernis. She said when she saw him on TV, she had to run to the bathroom to vomit.
This was who?
I believe I can't recall her name right now. It's in the book.
Did he attack her, or she just got a feeling?
To her, it looked like attempted attack. I call it accosting.
This is the one in the tunnel where he kind of cut off her access?
In a sense,
Where
right
she
before
felt
the tunnel,
it just felt wrong.
in Sunny Slope, yes.
Yes, okay.
There were
I did read
movements,
about that
and
in your
she
book.
mentioned seeing a blade in his hand.
There are some other names that come up in this investigation. Brandy Myers, 1992, same time frame, went missing while out collecting pledges for school reading project.
Right.
He actually confessed to his former wife, Amy, that he killed her.
Yeah. In so many words, I guess, yeah. And, you know, when speaking to him through the letters, you know, he said, you know, I told her some things, but she's playing off of what I said. So I don't know what he told her exactly. He never really gave me verbatim. But either way, it's tasteless at the very least. I mean, I don't understand it. Now, whether Amy thought it was serious enough to tell other people, or when she did, I don't know, you know.
Who else?
Well, there's
several unsolved in his orbit.
Yeah. Well, when I was at his house for the first time after the arrest, I was interviewed by the news, and I heard somebody mention the name Adrian Salinas, and that inspired an article that I wrote in 2017.
I remember reading it.
Yeah. And not condemning him, just I waited 2 years to publish it. And that's part of why I was at his house. Before I went to his house, I was speaking with Detective Akey in Tempe, and I told him I was going to go into that house, and is there anything I need to keep an eye out for, because I didn't know if they were looking for anything related to Adrian's case or not. So I had my head on a swivel in there. I was taking pictures, and it was just a strange time. And again, so I wrote this letter, and, you know, oddly enough, speaking of the 6 degrees, there's one of Bryan's confirmed victims would go on to actually meet Bryan Miller. One of the friends of one of the victims would actually go on to meet Bryan Miller before his arrest. And not only that, she would go on to meet Adrian Salinas.
Oh my God.
Who actually lived pretty close to Melanie Bernis at the time. It's a web of coincidences.
And as I remember from your article, you put Miller in that neighborhood at the time.
Well, we're talking
when Adrian Salinas.
We're talking Arcadia, because Melanie Bernis lived far away, considering where the canal murders happened. But she was an avid cyclist.
Right.
She would go to Fountain Hills. She would go everywhere. I mean, places she was amazingly athletic. So that was a main thoroughfare for her. And the funny thing is, people don't realize there were 2 canal murders in Phoenix at that time. And one of them lived a few blocks from Melanie, actually up against the canal. And it makes you wonder, you know, there's a lot of weird characters in this. I think his name's Pandelli, Peter or Darren or something like that, Pandelli. 2 days after Melanie was murdered, he mutilated some lady down, not too far, maybe a neighborhood across, took her breasts as souvenirs. I mean, this stuff, Phoenix in the 90s was no joke. This was ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember it well. At the trial, describe the trial. You were there every day. When you locked eyes with him,
You know, at first it was kind of strange. You know, he's wearing a mask as always. That wasn't nothing new. So, you know, he had a surgeon's mask on. So, you know, there was
This is because of COVID?
apparently he was the only one wearing it. So I don't know if it was just a security blanket for him, just like I consider the zombie hunter costume.
So you couldn't really see?
You couldn't really. You know, I stared at his bald spot for 8 months. That's about it.
He,
Sometimes.
but he saw you, and
Oh yeah, yeah. But the thing is, sometimes some of his relatives were sitting in front of me, so I didn't. You know, I don't. Sometimes you can't tell if he waves. If he's waving at her, I'm not gonna. You know, so.
was he active in his defense or impassive? What was his demeanor in the
Very
courtroom?
passive. I mean, it looked like he was at a gaming convention. You know, it's 8 months we're talking. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, eventually it's routine. You know.
Was there something in that trial where there was a moment of clarity for you about what this was all about and what had happened?
Well, I think it was, what comes to mind right away is what I feared the most, which was the victim impact statements. The victim impact statements really rocked me. I was expecting a guilty verdict, but I didn't. I wanted to be there, but I didn't want to be there, in a sense, to hear Angela's mom or whatever talk about it. It was going to be the hardest part. We all knew that, and that's when I knew that, you know what, he's in the right place.
Your story is so unique because the only other one I can think of that's close is Ann Rule, the stranger beside me, who knew Ted Bundy extremely well and wrote a book about it, The Stranger Beside Me.
Yeah.
You are a journalist and a writer who end up unwittingly in the middle of your friend being arrested
Right.
for these murders
Right.
and sentenced to death.
Yeah, and there's no way I couldn't have written it. It was set up for me. There was too many players and too many chess pieces there.
Did you feel like you had to write this because you had unique perspective, that it was almost in a way a duty?
Well, I had to write it just to cope, because I write with whatever I need to cope with anyway. And this just started out that way as a journal, and it's kind of, you'll notice it basically looks like an open sketchbook it tells a story.
It's one of the most unique things I've seen. You are sketching, you are doing these sketches, telling the story in part in sketches and in part in text.
Yeah, I try to, put Bryan's letters into illustrations, in a sense.
What is this one telling
This one
us?
here is, everything in the book that is red cursive is Bryan's actually own words, his jailhouse letters. So that's what I attempt to put illustrations.
What does he say? I'm trying to read it. I had practically been a prisoner at home for 5 years. I tried running away multiple times during that 10-year window of abuse, talking about his childhood.
Right. And this is him just apologizing, in a sense, for not telling me sooner.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't tell you about my past earlier.
Right.
You're among the friends I care more about.
So, I mean, and the whole book is like this with him, but it's not only his voice. Like I said, it's his daughter's voice.
Do you think he feels you've betrayed him by writing the book?
I'm sure he does, yeah. Yeah, well, but actually he knew about it. I told him right out day one that I'm writing something, and,
And he knew you were a writer.
Oh, yeah.
He had to know that was coming, since this is your
Well, I wanted to be open with him. I told him exactly what was going on, and as soon as I think, dug a little too far, it rattled his feathers, I think.
How has it affected you? You've been in this hole, dark hole of Bryan Miller for going on 10 years?
Right, yeah. It's a huge chunk of my life that I'm not going to get back. So I can't wait to get it out of my system. I can't wait to go back to comedy and go back to funny things. I'm telling you, I cannot wait.
You write comedy?
Life's too short. Yeah, I was a cartoonist when this happened, and I missed it. Everything went on the shelf for 10 years. I didn't pitch a story to any of my publications for almost a decade now. So it's like getting back in that saddle is going to be tough. It's going to be tough writing anything after this.
Boy, do you have any connection to him now? Or are you cut off?
No, I think I'm cut off. After his last letter, it was pretty angry. I just didn't want to even return it. I didn't want to respond at all. I just kind of wanted to let it fade out.
What was the anger about, if you can share it?
He was too ambiguous to tell me. I would share it if I knew. he kept it to himself. My guess is he heard of my article about Salinas. And
Did he vent it all in the letter to you?
no, it's the shortest letter of all 17 or 18 I got.
What did it say? Do you recall just generally?
I remember the words, "This is goodbye." Yeah. It was all of a sudden there's no illustrated envelopes like we see, with his other letters. That stopped. There's a plain white envelope and what I call his Dear John letter inside.
So this is a letter from Bryan to you, and he would always do some artwork on it.
Yeah, he's actually pretty talented, and he would pack the whole envelope with other art. It's one way to pass the time.
Do you know anything about his life at the Iman complex at Arizona State Prison? He's on death row.
That place, no. I've looked into it, but I don't know much about it. I know he kept telling me he couldn't wait to go to prison because the jail here was so bad. That's what
I've read that.
I've heard that from other people too.
Yeah, even the food.
Well, yeah, he rants about food a lot. So
Yeah.
I didn't include that, but
As you look back on this whole thing, what have you learned?
well, I've learned that first of all, when you gaze out into the Phoenix skyline, don't be fooled. This can be the smallest town in the world in the blink of an eye. That's one thing I've learned. And the other thing is to enjoy life. Don't let this toxic stuff into your life for a long time. I find all of it toxic, and it's like radiation.
How about just the cruel lottery of life that people, two girls riding their bike in that tunnel in the canal?
I repeat the words of Adrienne Salinas, who texted before she died. She texted something to the effect of, "Cherish every moment you have with your loved ones." I second that.
Keen, if and when, and we know how the death penalty works out. I witnessed one of these. James Dean Clark, he had been on death row for 30 years. If and when that happens, will you attend?
I don't want to. I'd rather not. I've seen enough. I don't want to see a person put to death. There's plenty of that in the world. I don't need to see it up close.
Anything else?
No, that's about it.
Okay, I appreciate you coming down.
Hey, man, my pleasure.
It's really good seeing you again. Keen Azariah,
Thank you.
author of The Zombie in the Rear View. Thanks, Keen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.